So, tonight's story, we continue with the Egyptian creation myths, picking up from where Re, the god of light, had created mankind, along with lesser gods and the laws and the order of the universe. And so we invite the story to come in and be told as it was meant to be told here this evening, as we enter the world of the Egyptian creation story. And so it was that Re had created mankind, and the noon had smiled, and the whispers of laughter had echoed through the universe. But Re had planned not only to observe what mankind would do with their gift of life, but also help them navigate all the troubles that were destined to befall upon them. For Re never forgot that the noon, although silent and hidden, would forever challenge his efforts to establish order over chaos. It did not matter if the men and women he had created were decent people or not, for the noon would disturb all orderly peace without discrimination. Re crowned himself the first pharaoh, entering a mortal human body, and he grew old. He knew that the law of time that he had created would one day destroy his earthly body, but he did not fear this, for he knew that whenever his human body died, he would simply rejoin the light that had risen out of noon. Yet there was a problem that had developed while Re ruled as a human pharaoh. At first, his people were devout, loyal, and very respectful of his laws. But as he grew older, the noon had succeeded in spreading chaos into the minds of men and women. Many of Re's people were quickly losing respect for him and had turned to acts of violence, lust, debauchery, and blasphemy. His own people had started to turn on him as his human body grew older and frailer. Many of them made fun of him and even went so far as to claim that he was not the Re, the creator of heaven and earth, but just a feeble old man who was better off dead. Although his people's change of heart was discouraging to him, he let their sins pass for some time. Yet as he grew older, he came to realize that when he passed away, another man would have to take his place as Pharaoh. The people were going to have to learn how to govern themselves, but no one suitable to be crowned a king had emerged. And as Re continued to grow older, his people only broke his laws more and more. Angry and disappointed in his human children, Re spoke another name into existence: Sekhmet. Up to this point in the evolution of the planet, the people of Egypt had had no threat. Then Re created Sekhmet, and mankind met their first true enemy. Sekhmet was the daughter of Re, born with the body of a woman but the head of a lion, and she was to be the destroyer of mankind. Re did not just give her the fangs and claws of a lion, but he made her bloodthirsty. For Sekhmet to remain alive, she would literally have to drink the blood of humans, for that was the food that Re had selected that she be nourished by. Go, my avenger Sekhmet! Go and evoke terror into the hearts and men of women. If the humans will not change their ways by the course of my love, then maybe they will change their ways through the fear that you will instill in their hearts. Instantly, Sekhmet rushed out into the desert and began a trail of blood and dismemberment. She did not know of such things as sympathy, mercy, or remorse. She had been created to brutally kill any and every human she encountered. She swallowed their limbs. She chomped on their intestines like they were links of sausage. She flayed the skin of men and savored each morsel as if she were chewing on a sweet tart. She drained the bodies of all their blood and poured it into the Nile so she could bathe in her favorite drink. By the end of her first day on Earth, she had covered her fur and flesh red. By the next morning, she was on the rampage again. Quite quickly, all the people of Egypt had learned of the terror that was Sekhmet. They tried to fight her off with swords and slingshots. But Sekhmet was also indestructible. Every sword that was swung broke when they made contact with her skin. Battalions of men and women banded together to slay Sekhmet, and they all fell dead at her feet. And she drank their blood. Re's plan had worked too well. The people of Egypt had come together and stopped their wicked ways, for the threat of Sekhmet united them in a common effort to simply remain from becoming extinct. The lust, the violence, the debauchery that the people had once happily partaken in suddenly came to a stop. For when Sekhmet unleashed her fury upon them, all would tremble. Re's people no longer had the option to do anything except fight or run from Sekhmet. Entire armies strategized and banded together to stop her, but they too were ripped to shreds and then eaten by her. No numbers were enough, and the population of Egypt was shrinking at a rapid rate. Re recognized this as an error on his part. Before he had taken the body of a mortal man, he was infallible and perfect in every way. Yet as a human, he had learned he too was as susceptible to error as was any other. He summoned Sekhmet before him and told her that her job was finished. She had united all of Egypt through the power of fear, and she must now cease and desist before that power of fear scrambled too far out of control. If the fear was to grow any further, then the chaos of noon would easily slip into the world that Re had created and wreak even more havoc. Also, if Sekhmet did not stop her spree of murder, then soon there would be no more humans left in Egypt. Sekhmet refused Re's order, and she reminded him that while he was in the shell of a mortal man, she could just as easily kill him as well and drink the blood of a god. Re cast her away from his temple and instantly began to devise a plan to correct the error that he had brought upon the people of Egypt. After heavy deliberation, the answer came to him. He first ordered the people of Egypt to go and retrieve a red ochre from the island called Elephantine. It took several days for his scout to retrieve the red ochre and return to Egypt. And during that time, Sekhmet continued to murder without discrimination. Re then ordered the people of Egypt to mix the red ochre with beer. The Egyptians who once disrespected Re did not understand his plan, but they were so vexed by Sekhmet that they did exactly as he had ordered. Re demanded that there were to be 7,000 jars of beer dyed with the red ochre. This took several more days to accomplish, and Sekhmet continued to kill everyone she came across. When the people had finally made all the jars of beer, Re ordered them to place the jars in the city of Heliopolis. So far, Sekhmet had not come to Heliopolis, and Re knew that it would be the next stop on her tour of murder and rampage. The people did as Re had ordered and then waited for a miracle. Sekhmet arrived at Heliopolis and saw what she believed to be thousands of jars of blood. With the roar of a lion, she let out a mighty cackle. She was under the impression that the people of Heliopolis had left her offerings to prevent her from tearing them all limb from limb. For Sekhmet only knew blood and murder. She had no idea what beer was. Thinking the red jars to be filled with blood, she drank every one of them. And she became utterly drunk. Re sat down next to her in the streets of Heliopolis. He had watched her drink all the beer and could confirm she had not killed a single person all day. And even more, when drunk, her nature, had become a symbol of kindness, peace, and far from bloodthirsty. This nature is far more suitable for you, my dear daughter. Sekhmet said nothing in return, for she was far too drunk to even speak. She could only grin, and she purred at the foot of her father. Tell me, daughter, would you rather remain as you are now, or become a great murderess again? Sekhmet said nothing, and only smiled drunkenly. Yet Re could converse not just with words, but with the heart and mind as well. And he could feel Sekhmet's intentions and understood that she would rather remain in a state of bliss rather than that of rage. Then it is decided. From now on, you will no longer be Sekhmet the killer, and are now reborn as Hathor. When Hathor sobered up, she retained the loving joy that had entered her heart while drunk. She had lost her bloodlust, but had gained instead a lust for love. Hathor went on to become one of the most respected and beloved of all the Egyptian deities. She protected her people from harm and gave love as unbiased as Sekhmet had dealt out death. A few more years went by, and Re had now become terribly, terribly old. While Re ruled as a human pharaoh, his other children went through their own share of adventures and misfortunes. Many different things, both great and horrible, happened to Osiris, Isis, Nephthys, and Set. Eventually, Isis had decided that Re was taking far too long to leave Egypt in the hands of his children. She had decreed to remove Re from the world of mortality all on her own. The combination of her own hardships, along with the bloody episode of Sekhmet, had convinced Isis that she could not wait any longer for old age to return Re back to heaven. She had to do it herself. She visited her father and saw him in a terribly feeble state. He had grown so old that spittle now dribbled out of his mouth. But Isis knew that the saliva of Re, like his breath, would create new life. And so Isis rolled his spit into the mud and created the very first snake. She then held the snake up to Ray and whispered a command to it. The snake followed her order and bit Ray, infusing his body with a vile toxin. Unlike every other creature, the snake of Isis was not created by Ray, and he had no power to stop the toxin from spreading through his body. He also did not see her create the snake, nor hold it up to him, for his senses had dulled along with his old age. He held Isis's hand and told her that he was in a great and terrible pain. Isis had the ability to heal, for the power of magic was under her provision. He asked her to help heal his pain. Isis understood that many of the other gods did not know. She knew that Ray went by several names, and one of the names he had always kept as a secret. If another besides himself knew of this secret name, then they too would have a power equal to his. I cannot heal you unless I know your secret name. Without knowing the true name of God, I am unable to heal the true God. Reluctantly, Ray told Isis his secret name. She then cast a spell which utilized that secret name. The spell worked and healed Ray of his pain, but the toxin had spread too far. Quickly, and soon after he was healed, his mortal life came unto an end. After Ray passed away, the young gods took over rulership of Egypt and began a new era of history and evolution, with Isis playing a pivotal role. Ray's human body had died. He rejoined the light that had given birth to all creation. And once again perfect, he realized how much he had learned while living as a human being. My time there was not for naught. I am even wiser now than I was before becoming human, he thought to himself. And my time away from human heaven has given way to disorder. This must be fixed. Ray then created a heavenly airship. The cycle of his light had grown weak, and he swore to correct the order of time and light from the chaos of noon. He fastened the sun to his airship and took hold of the helm, and every day forthwith, Ray would make sure that the sun rose in the sky above Egypt, then set and once again disappear, only to rise again the next day. And now, with the younger gods down below watching over man, with Hathor spreading the gift of love to all the people of Egypt, and with Ray at the helm of the sun, making sure that it followed the cosmic cycles he had established, the order would continue to defend against the forces of chaos, to defend against noon.